Kaylee Andrews, thank you for joining me on GV Talks.
No worries.
I'm pleased to have you. I'm sorry that you weren't one of my very first guests, but still in the first 10.
A little bit disappointed, but it's fine.
Constantly letting you down, am I?
All the time.
How have you been?
I've been doing all right, doing okay. Second time around in ISO was a lot better than the first time. I think I was ready for it a bit more.
When I had Maddie in the other day, she's like, I ran into Kaylee down the street during first ISO, and she said, Harley gave me a kettlebell, but I don't know what to do with it.
I did not take that kettlebell out of my car. It stayed in my boot the whole time. And this time again, I have done nothing. It's actually made me realise how worth what I pay to come to the gym and like what I pay to come and work out with you. Like, it's so worth it, because if I wasn't paying that money, like, I wouldn't do anything.
That surprises me about you, because I really feel like, especially once we'd hit that 12-month mark of training together, we kind of celebrated that, you would identify as a healthy person and you just wouldn't not be able to do that.
But I think for me, like, a lot of it is, like, I think, and ISO's made me really realise that, is a lot of what I like about going to the gym is the social aspect of it, like actually going and like seeing you guys and seeing Jai and Maddie and like saying hello to everybody and catching up with everybody and, you know, having that social aspect of it, but also like the fact that I've got you, like if I don't come in the morning like, Sleepy, where were you? And like you'll message me, and that accountability, whereas like at home I'd be like, oh, I could like do some squats later on, and then like if I don't do it, no one's gonna say anything about it. But I also think during ISO I just kind of kept it really chill and just relaxed, and
kept it really chill in the fact where you've kind of been doing like some personal development, or just genuinely just relaxing?
Well, I have watched an amount of TV, as I guess you could probably assume. I've actually started rewatching Grey's Anatomy again. And like a bit of crafty stuff, which is very unlike me, nothing that I've really done before. But this time around was a lot different than last time, just because like Dill was home a fair bit more, so I wasn't by myself kind of like all day, all night, like all week by myself. So it was a bit different, but I don't know. There's been a couple of weeks where I'm like, you know what, this week like I'll start doing some stuff at home, and then I just haven't done it. But I'm like, the gym will open up again soon. It'll be fine.
The motivation's high on a Monday. I'm always like, yep, this is the Monday that I'm going to start eating better. I've been training, but my food hasn't been great. Small wins. Can we let the Shepparton community know who you are so they know who they're listening to?
Yes. So my name's Kaylee, and I'm a primary teacher at Bourchier Street in Shep. So I've been teaching there for 2 years now. And then I've just got my contract renewed for next year, so I'll be there again next year, which is really exciting.
That's a big deal.
Oh, it's so exciting, like, and such a big weight off, because I feel like when I was in uni to become a teacher, I don't know why, I wonder if everybody else knew this and it was just me, but I was not aware that it was so hard to get ongoing contracts and ongoing work. Like, basically, when you come out of uni, you're just getting 12-month contracts that repeat themselves if they like you. So you could go to a school, get a 12-month contract, and at the end of the 12 months, you're not guaranteed to get a job back there next year. You've got to then, and even if you do, like even if they have jobs available, you have to apply for your job again. So last year, I had to apply for my job again, had to like resubmit my application, had to interview again, had to go through the whole process. This year I was really lucky. They've just rolled my contract over, so I don't have to go through that process again, which is really, really good, especially because remember when like my laptop got stolen?
Yeah.
So like my resume was on that. I would have had to type the whole thing up again, which is great. I don't have to do that.
Why do you think they do that?
So with teaching, when you go on maternity leave, they have to hold your job for you for 7 years. So a lot of the jobs, like, so for example, my position that I'm taking at the school right now would be someone that's on maternity leave.
Yeah.
And they can't give me ongoing employment because they don't know when that person's going to come back. Because they can just show up and be like, all right, next year I want my job back. And they have to find a position for them. So that a lot of schools will have a lot of 12-month contract people to kind of fill the position of people on maternity leave.
Yeah, okay. How do you feel about that? It's obviously got its pros and cons.
Yeah,
like as you were saying it then, I didn't really know how I felt about it. Like, I like the idea that somebody can come back after having a kid and get their job back.
Yeah.
But also that somebody else is losing their potential job that they might be relying on. Or
Yeah, it is really scary. And I think, like I said, like that was never something that I knew about teaching before I kind of enrolled. Like I reckon I was probably even 2 years into my uni course before like that kind of came up in conversation with somebody, and I was like, oh, okay, good to know. Cool. But like, I think the way that I look at it is I'm just like, I know that when I do decide to have kids and take my maternity leave, like I'm in a really good occupation to take that maternity leave. It just sucks that I don't have to, but I would like to wait until I have ongoing contract before I have kids. Because in this case, like let's say I was pregnant now and I went and took maternity leave like right now, I would only get paid I think, I actually need to double check this, but I don't have that guarantee that I can come back after my maternity leave. Like I don't have a job waiting for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure how my maternity leave would get paid. So like, because my contract ends in December, like if I took my maternity leave in August, I think I would only get paid maternity leave until December, and then they wouldn't be obligated to pay my maternity leave past that because I wouldn't be contracted to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so for me, I want to wait until I'm ongoing before I have kids, which is what I think a lot of people do, and that's why there's so many people out on maternity leave, because as soon as they get ongoing, they're like, all right, time to go and make the babies and take some time off.
So when are the ongoing contracts usually offered? Is there some sort of standard to that or some sort of time frame?
So a lot of people I know have waited like over 5 years to get ongoing contracts.
Yeah.
But the department's changed it recently that if you've been at the same school for 2 years in a row and they have an ongoing contract available, they have to offer it to you.
That's great.
Just because they offer it to you, like you have to apply.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but they have to let you know that they have one and you have to, you can apply for it. But my school, so like this year was my second year, my school doesn't have any available at the moment because we've got so many people out on maternity leave, but I'm sure they will one day.
Do you think there's a standard? There's a different standard of teachers coming out of university. Like, could any teacher do any role, or is there kind of like some teachers who get the qualification who are subpar, who wouldn't last in a job, or
definitely
are they all kind of like a standard where they would all pass? They'd all get.
I feel like uni was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be so full on and so hard and like such a challenge. And like, I was always someone that did really well in school, relatively well. And so like, I don't know how much of that plays a part in the fact that I found it quite easy, but I remember thinking like, we're going to be teaching like the kids, like the youth of tomorrow, we're going to be teaching all of them. And it's really like, I don't feel like they're pushing us that far, but they've brought in so I had to do it, and I think the year before me had to do it as well, but it's like the Untitled test, and it's basically like a literacy and numeracy test that checks that you actually know the content that you're teaching, because they found that there were so many teachers that were coming out of uni, like, yep, they've passed uni and they know how to teach maths or they know how to teach English, but if you ask them like, what's a quarter of 12, or like if you ask them simple maths questions or simple literacy questions, like they couldn't answer them. They didn't have the knowledge of like the content knowledge, so they've brought that in to kind of up the standard. But I think definitely like there's some teachers that come out of uni that are way better than others. I think it just depends how dedicated you are, just like with anything. Yeah.
So would that give you some pull to kind of negotiate a full-time contract?
I don't think I would ever be the kind of person to go into an interview and be like, but they're shit and I'm so much better, so give me the contract. But I think like schools definitely pay attention to that. Like, so for example, over my 12 months and like even now, like especially in my school, we do a lot of learning walks. So like our leaders, so our principal, vice principal, like all the leaders of the school, they'll like walk around your classroom. And they come in and like see what you're doing and kind of check in, and they'll like check in with your kids and ask all these learning walk questions. And I think, like, you know, when they're doing that, they're obviously looking at what you do. Are you good at what you do? Do they like the style that you teach in? Are you getting results? Like, what's going on in your classroom? And I think those observations that they make, you know, if they'd come into your classroom and they didn't like what they saw, then obviously at the end of the 12 months, they'd be like, oh, sorry, no contract for you, bye-bye.
Yeah. And it also would be reflected on how your kids perform.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of that, though, like, I don't know, I don't like to base my, not like my worth, but I don't know, for lack of a better word, like my worth as a teacher, I don't like to base it solely off how well or how bad my kids do, just because there's so many other factors that come into how they perform on something or how they perform on a test or, you know, on a topic or something like that.
That's a great point.
I don't think that's like the most important thing for me. Obviously, it's something that like is important and we take it into account and everything, but I think personally for me, it's not the be all and end all of a good teacher.
100%. Why do you love being a teacher? Because you did love it. You come in every day, or you come in majority of days in a great mood and you've had a good day at work.
Yeah, majority of days. Everyone has their days. I do. I love my job, and I think, like, I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was really, really young. I was actually thinking about this the other day because I was like, oh, I wonder what Harley's going to ask me. Like, because I feel like that was one of the things when we started uni, like one of our first days, they were like, all right, everyone share, like, why are you here? Why do you want to be a teacher? And so many people were just like, oh, because I love kids, or, you know, I think it's like, you know, you get lots of holidays, which I'm like, you know, that's true. But I think for me, like, even when I was younger, I remember like 5 or 6 and I used to be like, I'm either going to be a vet, a teacher, or a chef. And anyone that knows me knows I'm the fussiest eater in the world. So being a chef was gone. Vet, I don't know whatever happened there, but teacher was always something that was in the back of my mind. And when I was in year 11 and 12, I would spend all of my free periods in like the prep classroom and the grade, like in the junior classroom, helping them out. And I just loved it. Like, it was so, I don't know, they were just so cute and it was so rewarding, and like, they just love you and they just look up to you, and everything that you do is just like, whoa, like, you're so cool and you're so smart. And they just think, like, you know, you have this opportunity to kind of shape these kids and like change them and make them into who they're going to be and teach them those lessons, you know, like more so the lessons like outside of the classroom, teach them about life and things like that. And I think a lot of the teachers that I had when I was in school, a few of the teachers I had in school, like I try to sort of, ones that really left an impression on me and that I really looked up to, like I try and take things from them to kind of, I don't know, mold like the kind of teacher that I want to be. And so one of the biggest things for me is like, I want my kids to see me as their friend. And I know a lot of people would be like, you're not their friend, you're their teacher. Like, you need to be an authority figure and you need to blah, blah, blah. But I feel like if you are their friend and they, you know, like they have that respect for you as someone that they actually like and someone that they want to talk to and things like that, like, I think it's easier to be an authority figure when you have that friendship and that relationship with them first.
Yeah.
Like, one of my teachers, when we were in like year 11 or 12, she was like so cool, and we were all like, oh my God, like, her last name was McMillan and we called her Big Mac. And so we're like, Big Mac, like, she's so cool. And she was really cool, and like, she was so nice to us, and she actually like treated us like friends sort of thing, but still had that, you know, that authority.
Yeah, and the authority meant more because when she put her foot down, you knew that she was trying to help you from the best place.
Yeah, exactly. And we had that respect for her. So it was like, if she says, don't do that, I'm like, oh, well, you know, she wouldn't say it unless it was a really shitty thing to do. So, like, let's stop doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I want for my kids. Like, I want them to be like, okay, she's not just telling us stop kicking each other just because it feels fun or just for no reason. Like, there's a reason behind what she's saying.
Yeah.
And I think, like, yeah, that's a really big thing for me. That's my favourite thing, is just, like, building those relationships with my kids and having that friendship with them. And so that's been something that's been really hard over remote learning, like losing the opportunity to kind of build that in the way that you usually would. Like, when you think about it, we've really only spent less than half of the year in person with our kids. Like, that's so crazy to think about that.
What do you think that means for the kids? Do you think they're behind? Because that's what I've been hearing.
I would, like, I wouldn't jump and say every kid has fallen behind,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not the learning experience that they would have had if they were at school. But I think the biggest thing for me with remote learning is and you know, it's not just me, every teacher's had the same thing. There's kids that have just dropped off the face of the earth, like you've just not heard from them. And there's only so many phone calls and home visits and things that you can do. Like, if they're not going to engage, they're not going to engage. And a lot of the time it's not their fault. Like, it's, you know, family issues, or they don't have access to the internet or things like that. And, you know, our school's been so great with, like, providing devices. Like, people have been driving around dropping off, like, iPads and laptops and things to families so that they can actually engage. Like, a couple of parents that didn't have the internet, like, you know, our principal's taken around, like, those little internet, like, dongle plug-in things, you know, trying to give them every opportunity to engage. But there's just some that just aren't going to do it. And when you think about it, like, that kid's basically had 6 months off school. Like, you can't expect to be where you should be if you've taken that much time off school. And it's really scary.
Yeah. Do you think one of the most important parts about going to school for the kids is them learning how to socialise as well?
Yes.
So they would be losing that
aspect. And so many of our kids, like, we're very worried about when we come back, like, especially, so for me, I teach grade 3s, so they're like 7, 8 and 9 years old.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a important age to be learning those social skills, and they've just spent so much time at home by themselves or with their brothers and sisters. And, like, okay, you get a little bit of socialising skills from brothers and sisters, but it's not the same. It's not the same as when you're at school surrounded by 500 other kids and you have to coexist and get along and, you know, learn those lessons. And I think, yeah, that's one of the things that's going to be really interesting to see when they get back to school. And I think, like, you know, when you send kids up to grade 4, they've usually got a certain level of social emotional understanding and, like, know what they're supposed to be doing in a social situation. But this group of kids, and obviously that's the same across all year levels, but for example, when we send these kids up to grade 4, they're not going to be at the same position that last year's kids were. Yeah,
awesome. It sounds like your school and yourself have done the best that you could.
I like to think that. Yeah.
Can you think of anything that you would have done differently in hindsight?
I think like in the first round of remote learning, we were obviously trying to figure out what worked the best, trying, like, lots of different approaches, lots of different schedules and things like that. So for me, I was doing 2 class Zooms a day, plus every kid was having, like, a one-on-one conference each week. Mm-hmm. So I was on Zoom from, like, I think 8:30 in the morning until maybe like 2:30, 3 o'clock most days.
Yeah.
Just constantly. And it was so draining. It was so much work. And then there was just those kids that wouldn't come to their conferences, or they would show up and they'd be like, I'm not doing anything. I had one kid who would come to his conference and just completely shut down, and he would not speak. He would turn the camera off. He would, like, twist his iPad around so I couldn't see him. And his mum would be like, come on, like, talk to Miss Andrews. And I just, like, even just try and play games with him just to kind of, like, stay in contact and kind of keep building that relationship. But he was just not having it. And I think that was a really big struggle the first time around. Like, I think we really didn't have a lot of time to get ready. Like, I think they gave us a few days, which, you know, that's no one's fault. Like, no one could have given us more time. But I don't think we had enough time to kind of get ready. Whereas, like, obviously after the first time, we'd figured out what worked well and what didn't. So then this time around, it was so much easier. So I was doing 1 class Zoom in the morning, and then I had optional Zooms, 2 more optional Zooms for them to come to if they needed help. They didn't have to come. So they would just drop in if they'd started something and gotten a bit stuck and needed help. A lot of times I wouldn't have anyone come to those, but they were there if they needed them. And then I asked the kids, okay, who wants a conference? You don't have to have one, but if you want a conference, let me know. And it was those kids that needed it. Like, a lot of my top kids that really didn't need that one-on-one and, you know, were doing really well by themselves. They knew that, so they didn't ask for one.
Yeah.
And then I think that meant that all the kids that had asked for a conference actually wanted it and were going to show up and were going to do the work. So I think this time around worked so much better. And I think we kept, well, for my class and overall, I think my school, from the data that I've seen, our engagement was a lot better than the first time. Whereas, like, the first couple of weeks were really, really good, and then it kind of slowly dropped off. Whereas for me this time around, it kind of stayed steady. lost a couple here and there, but most of them, I think towards the end, I still had like 16 or 17 engaging most days out of, I have 22 in my class. So
that's great.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. I had maybe 3 kids that would, like those ones that I was saying, 3 kids that would just about drop off the face of the earth and I didn't hear from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then that counts for 2 that were kind of on and off here and there.
Are the kids back to school after these school holidays?
Yeah. Yep. So we've got, I don't know if everyone's doing this or if it's just our school, but so we've got the first week is back at school.
Yeah.
But they have the choice of, like parents have the choice of when they want to send their kid back. So everyone just has to be back by Friday and we're just doing that to try and stagger. So, we don't have 630 kids all show up at one day. So we can kind of stagger it a bit throughout the week. Personally, I think most people are going to send their kids on the first day. I don't think that's going to... I think parents have had enough.
Yeah.
Which rightfully so. I think they're going to be like, go to school, goodbye, like have a fabulous day and leave me alone.
Do you think that the parents will have a renewed appreciation for teachers from this experience? Because that is definitely the response that I've heard from parents. It is so hard to teach their kids.
I cannot even begin to try and imagine like what it's been like for parents. Like they don't have the experience or the knowledge or the resources that we have, and it's hard for us anyway. And just imagine being like, okay, now you have to do this thing that you've never done before, and it's not what you do every day. And like I honestly, the work that they would have put in, like some of my parents, the work they put in was just amazing, and I just think their kids are so lucky to have such an amazing family like that. But personally, like I've seen a lot of really good feedback. Personally, I did not get a lot of like appreciation from parents. Like I actually had quite a few parents that were like complaining or weren't really too happy with how things were going to start with. They kind of obviously, and I completely understand that, like they were obviously going through a lot and it was really hard on them, and that's fine. Like, but I did have a couple of parents that were really appreciative of all the work that we were putting in, and it was a lot of work. I think behind the scenes, like I don't think parents or people outside of schools know the work and the effort that we were putting in to try and make online learning something that was engaging and something that you could do at home, and trying to lessen the work for parents and things like that.
Do you think that potentially the kids could have got a better experience at home if their parents took on that role seriously? And because the reason I say that is because it would be hard for you when you've got 22 kids in the room. But if you just had one person teaching one student, like a parent and a student, there's definitely the potential for further growth.
Yeah, 100%. Like those kids that I was talking about where their parents like really gave it their all. Like the work that those kids were doing was amazing.
Yeah,
and I feel confident that those kids will come back to school and they really aren't going to be that far behind.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be like they've missed out on a whole lot. But obviously like we understand that not every parent is in a position to do that, and that's why it would have been so hard for so many different families. Like those parents that could take that time off and could sit down with their kids and could spend that time with them, like that's great, and they've done a big thing for their kids. And I think even like just the fact spending that one-on-one time with your kids that you might not have spent before, I feel like parent and kid relationships would have grown so much, and I feel like parents and kids would be so much closer. But obviously, there are those parents that weren't able to do that, and it definitely would have made things harder for their kids. But obviously, I feel like if they could do it, they were going to.
Yeah.
It's just those ones that just don't have that option or aren't in the position to do so, which sucks.
How do you think you're perceived by your kids? Do you think that you're the friend that you want to be?
I like to think that my kids think I'm cool. Like they all know I'm on TikTok and they think that's like so crazy. Like Miss Andrews on TikTok. They're always trying to find my TikToks. Even though none of them should be on TikTok, but they are. And they'll be like, I found you on TikTok. I'm like, no, you didn't. Because I know for a fact if they found me, they would like comment or they would like it or something. I would see them on there, but they definitely haven't found me yet. But I have had a couple of kids from school find me. But none of my kids. But I don't know. I like to think that they think I'm cool and that I'm fun. But I also think some of them think I have like some magical lie detection skill.
Yeah.
Because they'll try and lie to me. I'll be like, come on, tell me the truth. And they just crack straight away. And I don't know if that's just because they're like so young and they're like, oh, she knows. But I think they are usually quite honest with me. I don't have them lie a lot. And if they do and I call them out on it, they're okay. And like they'll come clean. I think they think I'm pretty strict though. But I think I've built up an expectation in my classroom that like certain things don't fly. Yeah. And they know that. And like for example, I had a kid come in probably like halfway through the year. So after the first round of remote learning, he started at school, and he came from a different school, like from a different state. Obviously, he'd had a lot of time off school before coming to Bourchier Street, was quite behind, and he came in and was like, would be on the floor and just like rolling around and like looking all over the place and like get up and just wander off. And all of my kids were like, let's call him Bobby. Bobby, you can't do that. Like, and they were calling him out and telling him like, no, that's not how we do things here. Like, I didn't even have to be the one to tell him. Like, they were so clear on what the expectations are in our room that they were able to be like, hey, this kid isn't doing what we're supposed to be doing. We need to tell him that that's not how it goes. Yeah. Which I loved that. That was so great. Cool.
Like, the kids know the difference between right and wrong because it's definitely something that you have to learn as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Do you have a story that comes to mind where you feel like you've connected with one kid specifically?
When you sent me this question, I was like, straight away, this kid came to mind. And so this girl I had last year, and she was just like, I have such a special spot in my heart for her. Like, I love this kid so much. So she was in my class last year, and she's autistic. And obviously, my first year I was like, okay, I've got a special needs kid. Like, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? And I was kind of like going into it like gung-ho, like ready to do this, really tried to be as prepared as I could. And I did have some experience before that with kids on the spectrum and stuff like that. So, I was prepared in a sense. But I don't think I ever expected to like have the relationship with her that I did. Like, we grew so close, and I had like such a great relationship with her mom as well, and just trying to teach her like those social lessons that for autistic kids are so hard to wrap their head around. She had like the worst time losing, like with games. Cannot stand losing, cannot stand getting out, like biggest tantrums that you've ever seen. And I think that was something that we worked on throughout the whole year. And towards the end of the year, like, it was like, I honestly cried so much on my last day because I was like, no, I don't want you to go. But, towards the end of the year, like, to see that growth in her, and she would be like, it's okay, it's just a game. And she would like look at me to be like, did you see what I did? Like, I didn't punch them. Like, I didn't go off. Are you so proud of me? And I'm like, yes, like, so good. Like, well done. And I was like, big on rewards for her to kind of like reinforce that behavior, which she frothed. Like, she was all about, like, we use like dojo points in our classrooms, like a point system. Yeah. She was all about the dojo point. She was all about like all of that stuff. And she knew that if she did the wrong thing, like, she would lose points, and I would call mum, and she didn't want that to happen. And she knew if she got a call home to mum, she'd lose her iPad, and she didn't want that to happen. So she, I think like that relationship and that friendship that I built with her really helped her to grow. So like next year we get to put in our preferences for what years we want.
Yeah.
Grade 6 really scares me. Like, I do not want grade 6 anytime soon. But next year she'll be in grade 5. I have requested to have grade 5 because I'm like, I would really like to have her again before she goes off to high school. I don't know if they probably won't put her in my class because I feel like they'll want to expose her to as many different teachers as they can before she goes to high school. But even if I end up in grade 5, like, I'm still going to be around her and get to like spend that time with her and stuff. And I mentioned it to her. I was like, I want to be in grade 5 next year. Like, you should go and tell Mr. Dharma. There's like our vice principal. I was like, you should go and tell Mr. Dharma that you want to be in my class next year. She's like, okay. And she like, off she went. And like, I told her mum, because they came in to see me a while ago, I was like, I really want to have again. Like, I miss her so much. They were like, that'd be so good. Like, I think I just said her name.
So
Doesn't
I can check
matter.
it out, yeah.
But she, no, she's so special to me. And I just, like, even now, her teacher this year, like, I'm really good friends with her, and she'd be like, oh, you know, if you mess up, like, I'm going to send you to Miss Andrews, and she's going to be really disappointed. And when she, like, behaves really well, she gets to come to my classroom and, like, have lunch with me on a Thursday, which is really cute, and she loves it. She comes in and she's like this celebrity in my classroom. Like, my kids are all like, oh my God, like this big grade 4 kid's here, and like they're friends with Miss Andrews, and which is, I love it. She's so special.
Can you fathom what it's going to be like when the kids that you've taught are young
Like
adults?
grown-ups?
Yeah.
No.
Like,
I always imagine just being out at the deck and like busting a move, and they're like, Miss Andrews, is that you? No, it's not me. Bye.
we found your TikTok.
No, I think it's crazy, and especially because my kids are so young. Like, they're like, you know, 8 years old. It's gonna be like 10 years before they're out and about. But even like just seeing them like in high school, I think is gonna be crazy. Like, they're tiny, tiny, tiny humans, and like, I often think, like, I wonder what you're going to be like as an adult. Like, I've got, you know, you'll have kids that are like little bullies, and you're like, what are you going to be like when you're grown up? Like, are you going to be nasty to everybody, or are you going to learn a lesson like halfway through and kind of change? Or like those kids that are so sweet and so smart, like, you are going to be like a scientist, or you're going to be so cool and you're going to kill it. It's so cool to think about what they're going to do.
I think being a teacher in any aspect is absolutely the best thing in the world, whether it's in a classroom or teaching, like I teach weight, the gym, because you don't know how the actions you take or the words you say echo.
Exactly.
So like the girl that you were talking about before, like it seems like a big deal. It is a big deal to you, and it is a big deal to her, but who knows what that will grow into. Like, she could do something amazing, and that could have started from you.
Yeah.
That could have stemmed from you.
I think like what I was talking about, like with the teachers that I think about now, like, you think that was what, 6-7 years ago, and I still have those lessons in my head. I still think about the words that they said to me. I still think about the situations and the things that I shared with them. Like, they're, you know, they're core memories for me. They're things that I think about all the time, and they're things that I try and shape my teaching style off.
The teachers that you're talking about, what years were they specifically?
So they were all in high school, so probably around like year 9 to year 12.
Yeah.
So I had one who was like she was like a social worker sort of position in the school. She was there for like our well-being, and she had a lot to do with like kids that were in the system and stuff like that. And in like year 9 and 10, as most girls do, all the girls in my year level went through like a whole lot of drama, a lot of bullying, like a lot of situations like that. And she was, you know, would sit down and talk to all of us, and kind of like sat down with me. And I just remember this conversation so clearly, and was like, you know, you're different to these girls. Like, you're going to go so far in life, and like really pumped me up. Now that I look back on it, she probably gave the exact same speech to all of them, which like, and they all probably think the same thing. But for me, like, it really stuck with me. And she, you know, like when I was going through some stuff in high school with like my family and things like that, she organised for me to get like mental health help, and organised all of that for me, and used to like let me come and sit in her office and stuff when I was going through things with my friends. And she was just really good in that aspect. And so for me, when I was at uni, all of my electives that I took were around social work, wellbeing, welfare, things like that, because eventually I would like to try and have a role like that in a school one day. And then, yeah, the one that I was talking about, Big Mac, she was just like a really cool teacher, kind of got down on our level, was like a friend. She was really awesome. And then I had a maths teacher, and maths was always really, really hard for me. And I hated maths, and I always struggled with it. And I know a lot of people would say, like, you can't blame the teacher, and even me as a teacher would be like, don't blame the teacher, like, it's not their fault. But I had a run of a lot of really rough maths teachers in high school. And then this teacher, Miss E, she came along when we were in like year 10, and our whole class was just so far behind. And she came in and was like, all right, year 10, like, this is what we learn. And she was like, you guys cannot do this. Like, you don't even know what you should have learned in year 8. So she like took the time to go back and teach us all of that stuff that we'd all missed out on, so that we could then learn the stuff that we need to learn in like year 10 and 11. And like we all became so close with her to the point where like when we were in year 12, she invited us all over to her house, and she was Indian, so she cooked us up like this big Indian feast, and it was so good. And like I just think those relationships and those memories with those teachers are really important to me. And I would love for my kids to be like, I remember when Miss Andrews like sat down with me and had this conversation, 10 years after the fact.
Yeah. Do you speak to any of those teachers now?
I have them all on Facebook. But no, I don't really talk to them anymore. I think like, I don't know, it gets to a point where it's like a bit weird if you were like messaging them after school. But I think, we saw Miss E a few times, and like when we were first out of school, maybe like the year after, me and my friends used to like go up to the high school and like visit our old teachers sometimes, but I don't know, it's been quite a while now, so it might be a bit creepy to just show up. Yeah,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, people have a part to play in your life, and once they've played that part, that's where that role ends. But it doesn't change the fact that they have taught you a lesson that you will teach your kids eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
So awesome. You're not just a teacher, though?
No, so much more.
What other things do you get into? What hobbies do you have?
Well, recently, like I said before, I've started doing some crafty sorts of things.
Talk to us about that, because I'm all about supporting other locals when they try and start their own businesses.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen anyone else do what you're doing.
Well, see, that was a big thing for me. So basically, I think the only reason I started an Instagram page for it was because I was like, my Instagram does not need to be filled with all of this stuff. Like, I'll just put it somewhere else. So I started this page all about acrylics because I was making some things for Christmas hampers for family. These little like flat acrylic baubles that I just think they look so cool, and I haven't really seen anyone doing them. And I, just got this Cricut machine which makes like labels and stickers and stuff. And this was one of the things I wanted to do with it. And I had a few left over, popped them up on Instagram. Was like, would anyone be interested in them? And within like 2 hours, I'd sold over 20 of them. So I was like, okay, well, maybe like people are interested in this. So I made a page and made a couple more designs and popped them up. I've just done some like acrylic key rings, which I had bought like probably a month ago, and was just going to make them for like my friends and my kids, and not my children, my students, clarify that one. But yeah, I was just going to make them for them. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll pop these up and see if anyone's interested in these as well. But it's been so much fun. Like, I've never been a very like creative, arty person. But these look so cool, and it's like so exciting to me that people are actually like interested in this thing that I'm doing. Like,
well, they look great.
Well, thank you.
I kind of feel like everyone has a sense that it's like, oh, but it's just me as a person doing this thing. But it doesn't matter if the product's great. Yeah. Like, people want great products and they look unreal.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people in town that do, like have a Cricut and make stuff with their Cricut. I know there's a girl on Instagram that I have bought so much stuff from. Her Instagram's Bauble Co. Yeah. And she does a lot of Christmas baubles, but she does like filled with glitter and like filled with feathers, like actual round baubles, puts people's names on them and things like that. And a lot of people do that around here. I think she does an amazing job with hers. Like, I always support her things. But a lot of people do that. So I definitely didn't want to, like, I don't think it's cool to go and like encroach on other people's things or like copy what other people are doing. So I think one thing for me was I wanted to do something that other people weren't doing, or I hadn't seen anyone in this area doing. Because I know, like, even when I see like similar businesses, I'm like, oh, why'd you start doing that? Like, there was already somebody doing that now. Like, that's not cool. That's not a cool vibe. But I think, like, yeah, that's been for me, like, one thing that I want to do. Like, I don't want to do anything that anyone else is doing, for the fact that I don't want to take anyone else's ideas or, like, kind of step on their toes. But also because I feel like if two people are doing it, like, it's not interesting. It's not cool. Like, I want to do things that are new and exciting and original.
Yeah, especially with those creative businesses. I understand what you're saying. What's your end goal with it?
I don't know. I feel like
it would just be so much fun, right? At the start, it's just so much fun.
It is. And at the moment, like, I'm having so much fun. I had someone message me and order like a class set. She's going to do them as like presents for her kids at the end of the year. So I'm working on those ones at the moment. But I honestly did not think anyone was really going to be very interested in them. Like I had 5 left over, and I sold those to Maddie straight away. So now like these other orders that I've gotten, I've had to order in some more baubles. So I've ordered in 40 more. I've got to take like 22 that I've already sold out of that. So I've got like, 19 left.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I might not even sell anymore. People might not even be interested anymore, and I'll just delete the page. But as long as people are interested, and as long as people are engaging, and as long as people are ordering them, like I enjoy making them, so I'll make them.
Somebody asked me about the podcast, and what I said was it didn't really matter if nobody listened because I just enjoyed doing it. Like I'm enjoying having
well, I can see that
I'm enjoying having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Because when I meet you in a day-to-day life, it's so fast. Like I don't really have 45 minutes where I can sit down and we can have a proper discussion and get a little bit deeper than just the surface.
Yeah.
So I just enjoyed that aspect of it. So if nobody even listened, it wouldn't bother me at all. Is that what it's like with your crafts though?
I would still make stuff like for...
Because I see you making stickers and...
Oh my God, my stickers. I'm so excited about my stickers. I actually feel like... So like the name All About Acrylics literally came to me while I was driving. And then I put it up and I was like, I really should have done that. Because now I feel like I've kind of boxed myself in and I like can't do anything that isn't on an acrylic. But I think I just do it anyway. But yeah, I made these little Bitmoji stickers and they're so cool. Like my kids are going to love them. And I had a couple of kids like on Zoom and I was like, look what I made. And I was like showing them like little show and tell, all this stuff that I was making. And they thought it was so exciting. Like, but yeah, I've been making those, doing these baubles. I've done like some different little like labels and things like for my like spice jars and things in my pantry, which has been really fun. But I've wanted a Cricut for ages because you can do so much with your classroom for it. It's like next year I want to do a Harry Potter themed room, hopefully. And like I've got so many ideas of things I can make with my Cricut that like otherwise it would be such a pain in the ass to like cut out tiny things. Like the Cricut can do all of that for you and like makes these labels and all these like designs and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Sounds awesome. Will you get like a rebate on that? Will the school give you any money back on that?
Well, I heard that apparently they will not give you... Not the school. I thought I'd be able to claim it on tax, but someone was saying you can't claim Cricuts on tax. I'm going to do it anyway. Like, I'm going to try. Worst case scenario, they're going to be like, no money back for you. But, like, they're not a cheap thing. So I bought the Cricut and, like, a couple of things to go with it. And it was about a $500 investment. Yes, I guess you could call it that. But it's made me fall in love with Spotlight. Like I've never spent so much time in Spotlight. I'm like, this is the old lady shop and now it's for me.
Are you a member there?
Yes, I am.
You have to be a member.
You save so much money.
You save so much money.
Someone was so there's like these Cricut Facebook pages that I'm on, and someone posted on there. I was like, there's a 40% off voucher in your emails for like Cricut products, and I was like, where is it? But I can't find it. But I'm gonna call them and be like, where's my voucher? There are so many things that I can buy.
Love it. So if you're not a member at Spotlight but you shop there, make sure you sign up because it's just crazy. I bought bed sheets the other day, 50% off because I was a member.
How wild.
I know.
Free plug. Spotlight, sponsor GB Talks.
Okay, awesome. Well, I've actually had an absolute blast. I did have a couple more questions for you, but I think I'm just going to go to the last 2 now, and maybe in the future I'll have you on again.
Oh.
First repeat guest.
Makes me feel special.
Who locally inspires you, and you can pair it with, if you want to, who should I have on the show?
Well, we were talking earlier about some of the local council people, and I said you should definitely get Michelle O'Keefe on. So I think she's a cool lady. I like her vibe. She's very pretty, and she came and did some stuff for the school, so I think she's really cool. Vote for Michelle. And then maybe Tegan. I think Tegan would be a really cool person to have on.
Yeah.
But I was actually also thinking,
well, calm down. You can't take everyone. Just list off 50 people.
Kirsty that comes to the gym.
Yes.
So she has like a resin business in town. She makes like resin stuff. So I thought that could be a cool one to have on. Like you could get her to talk about teaching as well, get a different aspect And then she could also talk about her little business.
All right, great. I'll chase those up and hopefully I can get some of them in.
Okay.
Thanks, Kaylee.
All right. Bye.
No, not yet.
Kim.
One more time, just in case.
Do you want me to say the full name?
Yeah.
Kim O'Keefe.